Who's ready for Cosmere reading? I hope you guys feel strongly about this one. We're gonna find out, I guess. But to start off, I want us to all introduce ourselves in case there's any creators you guys don't know. So let's start all over on the right.
Sweet, all the way over here. So I'm Jaden Feddock, one half of Next Chapter, a YouTube podcast specifically about fantasy news, content, movies, and very specifically Sanderson and the Cosmere. So we're here for it, and we're very excited to be here.
Yep, I'm Marty, also part of Next Chapter, the other half. In the future, we are going to be branching into more fantasy, and that way we've reread everything in preparation for Wind and Truth. It's actually why we started this channel about a year ago today with the goal of being here today. We made it here. And we're excited to be here. Thank you.
And just a quick talk, you are Skybreaker and Windrunner?
Yes.
Okay, so who Skybreaker's in the audience? Give a cheer. Wow, that's
Hey, that's okay.
Sad.
Rare but powerful.
I'm expecting a good one here. Windrunners.
Yes.
You guys, okay. Windrunners.
Sean?
Next up, Sean.
Hi guys, I'm Sean. I am the host of a podcast called Speak the Words that is all about going through the Cosmere for the first time with my friends. I am currently covering Elantris with my buddy, and I'm just so excited to be here.
And according to autocorrect, you're a truth water.
I'm a truth water.
So any truth waters out there? What about truth watchers? Okay.
There we go. There we go.
I am Matt. I run a YouTube channel called Nerd of the Rings, and it's vast majority, okay, all of it is about Tolkien, but in June I was finally worn down by a number of friends, including Daniel Green and my moderators and a lot of people that have told me for years that I should read Sanderson. Started in June, and needless to say, I'm kind of obsessed with it now, and they said, you've had weeks of experience, why don't you talk about the reading order? So,
that's an important perspective, and he has not chosen an order yet, so you guys can be thinking about that and tell him the order he should be. Recruit him.
It was very stressful when I had to pick the lanyard, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about this.
Yeah.
So,
you're a fan now, you gotta start
I gotta
doing
figure
the
that
important
out.
stuff.
Yeah.
So is the channel Nerds of Truth coming out, or?
Oh gosh, I was asked this at a panel yesterday, and I just said, watch and find out.
Yeah, I love it.
I
You
say
know
WAPO
enough.
all the time. Good one. And I am Bookborn, and of the channel of the same name, where I cover a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, mostly video essays, and of course I love Sanderson, have been a fan for over 12 years. And I am an else caller. Are there any else callers in the room with us? Oh! Okay guys, when I asked that last year, there was one. It was like our sad Skybreaker, so I'm so glad there's more of you.
You're the sad Skybreaker.
You're the sad Skybreaker now. So we want to start with an audience poll, and here's how it's going to work. I'm going to kind of give you the options you have, and when I say it, you're going to give me a bridge for if it applies to you, okay? So we just want to know why you're here. We want to kind of see like what our audience is. So the first would be, are you here for yourself? Are you a new Sanderson fan and you want to know what order to read in? Give me a bridge for if you want to know for yourself. Okay.
Nice.
We have a few. Okay, this is good. What about others? You trying to get, okay, immediately. You want to get your friends into Sanderson. And then who's here to argue? Who feels passionately about
Ooh, my people.
This is what I want. There will be an FAQ at the end of this, and our Q&A, I mean, and I would like you to come and argue with us. So quickly, we're going to go down and just talk about how we generally feel about the importance of a correct Cosmere reading order. And I think because everyone here knows, I'm going to start. My hot take is I do not think there is a correct reading order. I do not think it matters any bit, and I will here to defend that to the death. Take it away.
Yeah, likewise, I'm kind of the same mind. Like, it's more important to start than to start
What was
in the
your
right
reading
place.
order, actually, since you're very new?
Yeah, I started with Mistborn, and I adore Mistborn. It's
The
my
right way to
favorite.
start.
I will say, handing someone Mistborn, in terms of thickness of the book, is much less intimidating for that
correct.
person. So, you know, my 13-year-old has since gotten into Cosmere since I have, and I handed him the first Mistborn book, knowing like if he likes this, I've got like 12 more books just waiting. And sure enough, he did, and so now he's on Oathbringer right now, and
Wow.
yeah,
Amazing.
it's pretty fun. So if you have a friend who, you know, is intimidated by thick books, give them one of the thinner ones first. Get them on the hook.
I think I'm going to be taking the middle ground here. I think it's like super specific. I think that it doesn't really matter for average readers. I think if you're like super into fantasy, if you've read Wheel of Time or, you know, Lord of the Rings or whatever, and you really want to dive into the world, I think it's a little more important then that you read it in a certain order. My biggest take is for people that like don't read fantasy, hand them Tress. I just think Mistborn is good, but it's kind of old, so that's kind of where I find the best opening for people that have like no interest in fantasy beforehand.
Love that. So our perspective, it kind of looks like we're going from hot takes over to more cold,
Yeah.
like we might be a little bit more firebrand over here. I think there is a very specific reading order, but this reading order is based on, for all of you fans out there, how do you get your friends to love Sanderson too? And I think there's a very specific order to get them there through all the books, keep the momentum strong, and love them all.
I'm on similar note. I've maybe been influenced a little bit because you were one of the major people who influenced me to read Sanderson.
He got through them, didn't
But
he?
we're here now. So I would say, I don't know if anyone's seen the TV show Loki, but if you choose to branch out of the standard timeline, there are consequences. So what I would say with this reading order is I have a reading order that I think should be followed. If you choose to branch out of this reading order, the requirement is you have to come back through in certain paths and reread. So you may go outside of my reading order, but you will have to do some rereading as a requirement of that choice.
Yes, required reading for hobby reading. Yes, that makes sense.
That's exactly how it works.
Permission as well to do so.
We are arcanists here. We're supposed to be learning and studying, and those are required readings.
So I think the brought up is we got to first talk about Cosmere focus, which is very different reading order necessarily than getting your friends into Sanderson, right? So if we're talking like the best Cosmere focused reading order, some of the ones that come up a lot is Mistborn Secret History and Warbreaker is where you should read them. So we got Cheers. What's the Cheers for? Just we love Warbreaker? Me too. Yeah, okay. Warbreaker's my favorite Sanderson, so I'm with you. I think for me, it's just like, we're really big nerds in here. You know what I mean? Like, we love Sanderson, right? Like, we're all here. We fought to get the tickets in under 30 minutes. Like, if you're here, you were there. But the average reader, do you really think they care so deeply about meeting the character in the exact right moment? You are more connected to how you experienced it. So I get it. I experienced the Cosmere in a mostly, like release order, because I've been around for a while. So I got to experience some things with Secret History and some things with Warbreaker in a certain order that were very exciting, okay? But does it matter that everyone else out there has the same experience you have? Does it really matter if you meet the character in Warbreaker first, or in Words of Radiance first? Does that really matter?
My people.
No, you're just so concerned about like the cool experience you had, but it could still be a cool experience to feel like Warbreaker is a prequel for a certain inanimate object. Maybe it's like, oh, I get the backstory. You would just view it differently, is my
So, I did read Warbreaker after Stormlight, and I really regret it. I wish I'd read Warbreaker first.
A sample size of one means nothing.
I did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I read Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, and then came back to Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, and then came back to Warbreaker, and I'm in the same exact camp. I was getting references from this guy, like, oh, did you catch that? Did you catch what he said there? And I caught nothing, and I felt sad.
Okay, but in my defense, it was he finished Rhythm of War or Oath. Oh my gosh, it's where's the
Warbreaker or Words of Radiance?
Warbreaker. So he finished Warbreaker, and I was trying to call back to those moments in Oathbringer.
Yeah,
I'm
like
like
5,000
remember that
pages
guy
ago.
that you met? Like he's this guy that you just met here. It's so cool, and he had a hard time.
Doesn't
with
work that way. Not for me, at
But
least.
did you still enjoy Oathbringer? Was Oathbringer a bad book?
I
If you
did
didn't
really
know that?
enjoy Oathbringer.
Oh, so you liked it.
I liked the book.
So it was
I liked
great.
the book, and I would have liked the book even more in a different order.
And
So,
You can't
hence the
cannot
branch.
know that.
The branch.
There is no physical way to actually know that.
All right. Ref in the middle here. Ref in the middle here. I think it just depends mostly on the kind of reader that you are when you're suggesting books to your friends and stuff. I think you probably have an idea of what they enjoy. It sounds like over on this end, we get more enjoyment out of the moments, like a certain moment at the end of Words of Radiance when you see a very delightful talking object show up. Like, it seems we treasure that a little bit more than just, is it good? Just having that moment of, oh man.
For sure, and I think knowing your reader is important. So it's
Yeah.
So who in the audience has had an experience where they've given someone a Sanderson journey and they've bounced off of Sanderson? So it's common where the experience being different enough from your experience can lean toward the negative.
But is it because of that? Like I'm saying, if you bounce off Sanderson, is it really because, oh, I met the character in the wrong order? Like, has anyone ever heard that? I feel like if you care about the characters, you're already invested in Sanderson at that point.
And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but it is.
You have another slide.
I'll wait. I'm so excited to jump in.
What about Secret History? Does anyone have opinions about? I think Secret History, the question usually for Secret History is, do you read it between eras 1 and 2, or do you read it after Bands of Mourning? Right? That's typically the question about where it should go.
After Era 1. After Era 1.
Let's take a poll.
Oh
Who
gosh.
wants to read it after Era? Who thinks you should read it after Era 1?
Bridge 4, guys, come on.
Bridge 4. Who are you people? Okay, who thinks you should read it after Bands of Mourning? Oh.
Wow.
I really thought it was going to be the other way around.
Me too.
I did too, but I actually agree with the majority. 100%.
Okay, tell us about that experience. That's when it was released, if you didn't know. It was released on the same day as Bands of Mourning.
Oh, interesting.
So like I read it at the same time because I'd already read Mistborn 1, but that's technically the like release order.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think it was. Yeah. It was enjoyable. I lucked out. I have a moderator for my channel who is very opinionated on the reading order, and basically said under no circumstances should you deviate from this order. So I did read Warbreaker.
Is the order in the room with us?
I don't have it with me, no. I'm sure if he's here, he will probably text it to me. No, so for Warbreaker, when you guys were talking about I did read that before, that reveal, and that is a pretty awesome moment when that's revealed. So I'm glad I experienced it in that order for sure.
Yeah, but how did you feel like that was? So you read it after Bands of Mourning? It was.
Yeah. I thought that was good.
Okay, yeah.
I enjoyed it.
So I think my main problem with The Lost Metal is that it now makes it, you have to read Secret History after Era 1. Unless you are okay with taking like...
No spoil. We're trying to
Yeah.
spoilers.
There's, you need to have read a certain amount of Stormlight archive before you can read Lost Metal, or else Lost Metal spoils a major thing about the Stormlight archive. You guys don't think that's major? You guys don't think the end of Rhythm of War is insane? That is an insane reveal. No, I'm gonna start fighting.
Fight the crowd.
But yeah, I think if you don't want to spend a long time, in between books in the middle of a series, I think you really want to read Secret History after Era 1, so that you're not like, okay, I've read Alloy of Law, Shadows of Self, Bands of Mourning, now let me wait until I've read 4,000 pages of the Stormlight archive before I can continue reading this stuff. And then you read Secret History after that and you're like, wait, what happened in Era 1 when I read it 3 years ago? Like, wait, I don't know. Yeah?
Next chapter, you guys got it.
I'm gonna just jump in because I think one of the things that's cool about Sanderson is a spoiler isn't always a spoiler on first read.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And one of the things is you go through this and you're like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing. You don't think, oh my goodness, that's the craziest thing I've ever read, because you haven't read the extra 1,000 pages. Because it's written that way on purpose. You can technically start from anywhere. Yes, some people say you start from anywhere. But
Some people.
I
Some
do
people
think
the Rhythm of War isn't a big deal, but...
it's one of those things where it's written that way on purpose because you want to bring a bunch of people into fantasy. I do think one thing that makes my opinion about the reading order and the branching important is that if you choose to dive into Sanderson in the way that we all have, if you have an emotional reaction when I say Radiant 7 and 9, then you will know that there is a moment in these books that's important, or there's a connection that's important. So I think if you're going to dive into Sanderson, you're going to dive into Cosmere, you're going to think, oh, I read Words of Radiance, now I can go read all of these Sanderson spoiler Q&As. If you want to go that deep, if you want to start talking to fans that have already read those books, they will likely have read in a specific reading order, and they will likely know things that will affect your enjoyment and readability of a future book. So if that's the way you want to go, if you want to go into the Cosmere deep, you want to come to all the conventions and read all the Q&As and the spoilers, there are things you should probably read in certain orders.
But I mean, that's like, I feel like that's gatekeeping though, because it's like, a lot of people aren't going to be online. So they're going to go to the store, they're going to read Mistborn, and they're going to fall in love, and they're going to read all of it, and maybe they read all of it and then get into the fandom. You're going to tell them that they did it in the wrong order and they can't do spoiler Q&A now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think so many people aren't on Reddit getting the, right.
Well,
I think Sanderson's done a good job that they are all self-contained.
You do have to do all the books before you can go to any Brandon Sanderson. I will say that.
Is true. I mean, but even just like being a participant, I feel like people are pretty good here. I got, when you're having conversations, I'm like, well, have you read, like, we know the important ones, they're on the board right now.
I will give it to you if you are reading in the order that you want. That's different than mine, which is fine. But that is what makes Sanderson's books very rereadable, is that you're going to catch Easter eggs no matter what order you read them in. You're like, oh my gosh, I just grabbed that from this book or that book. And there are books that he's written now that we're reading technically before they should be read, because he's going to write them in the future, and we're going to have to reread these books to understand those Easter eggs. It's just so rereadable, and that's what makes the books so enjoyable, for me at least.
I think. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say. I will say. Since diving into this fandom, y'all are so good about not spoiling things, like to the point where when I reach out to my friends and have a question, it borders on rude a bit, where it's like I'm not gonna answer your question. Like, just shut up and read. And
I
the Rappo thing. Yeah.
Right phrase.
Yes.
Right.
But
Idea.
it's like. A couple times, like, my feelings were a little hurt, how like strict they were about it. But I mean, I'm thankful for it because I got to experience it through the books.
Yeah,
but you guys
I can see it.
You're really good about making sure you don't spoil things for other people.
I am extremely anti-spoiler.
Yes.
I'm one of those people that I was like, well, you'll find out later. Talk to me later. Or honestly, I'm more give me a phone call as soon as you finish this book, because I need to chat. So
I get that a lot.
I realized we have a lot more Cosmere-focused stuff we haven't talked about. I was going on to like what order your friends should be in, but I forgot. Secret projects. Should we talk about secret projects real quick? Matt, have you read secret projects?
I haven't read any of them yet. I haven't gotten that far.
Well, let me tell you what you need to do.
those were O's, not boos, by the way.
Yeah.
So you read half of Tress, and then you read a third of The Frugal Wizard.
Yes, your friends read order gone. This is the new one.
Yeah. I'll text it to you.
Okay.
Chapter
good.
54, then of Sunlit Man.
Yeah. Then you're gonna have to go back to Mistborn.
Yeah. He actually wrote it out of order.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
ping pong
He
that.
made a time machine.
Okay, guys, which of these secret project books do you feel most strongly about needs a specific reading order? Tress? Give me a Bridgeport if it's Tress. Give me it if it's Yumi. Give me it if it's Sunlit Man. Okay, yeah, that was what I expected.
Easy answer here, easy.
Yeah.
We did chat a little bit before this panel. We have a little story for you. So you guys do you feel like it really needs to be right after the Stormlight archive? Is that? Okay, great.
Like after the fifth one?
Yes,
Or-
after the fourth one.
Fourth one.
But
The fifth one.
The fifth one, I have finished the fifth one. I won't say anything.
Don't even say that you finished it.
I just want to taunt everybody. No, the Sunlit Man, my dad read it before he has picked up a single Stormlight archive book. He has read Mistborn and every secret project. And I asked him some questions about some characters that show up in the Sunlit Man, and he was like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, it made sense to me. It's just like they're regular archetypes. Like, I totally loved it. It was great. I think we have lost the plot sometimes because we can have a conversation that sounds incomprehensible to an outsider. Have you guys listened to yourselves this weekend? Because sometimes I stop. I'm talking in a bar to somebody, and I'm like, 3 out of every 4 words I just said were a different language to anybody outside of this con.
Yeah.
We're like, you look at those Q&As, it's like, well, if you had a truth watcher on Skaterial, what would happen on the full moon if, so I think we forget that Sanderson gives you a lot of context in these books that if you're a reader, you can pick up on.
So I do think that there's a very specific place for the Sunlit Man, but I will agree with Bookborn on this. I was completely floored. I have a coworker who the Sunlit Man just looked like a beautiful book to him, which it is. I love the black sides and everything. But it was the very first book that he'd read from Sanderson. Blew me away. I'm like, are you kidding me? And so he read it and he loved it. He understood everything he needed to. And again, this comes back to the part where I'm saying Sanderson writes in a way that makes it so anyone can start with any group of books or single books themselves and then enjoy it in itself. And then you can come back later and get more. I do strongly agree that if you're going to have a reading order, that can't be the first, but it can be done. It can be done.
I'll agree with you. That would not be my first book I offer to somebody. I have some standards.
We broke you on one. I love it. I'll take it.
If there was a Sanderson buffet in front of you, there are course meals and there are just things on the table you can eat anytime. And the secret projects are those things.
Except for the Sunlit Man.
Yeah, except for the Sunlit Man.
I would even include it
No.
because
I even think there are parts of
the
Uni
secret
that
projects.
don't really make sense unless you've read other stuff.
Okay.
You
there
even
are
disagree
things-
with Bookborn on this, and she
I
loves
do,
everyone.
I do. That's why, see, ends of the table here. So I do think that the secret projects are the best way for a fan to say, I just read all Mistborn 1 through 7. I'm not ready for Way of Kings. Okay, look at these fantastic, beautiful books that you can pick up and enjoy a 300, 400 page book and just love it for what it is. You're busier, times are different. Maybe you don't have as much ability to dive into a 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 page journey. That's where you can go. And I think that's a lot of the reason they were written, is there are these little breaks where you can enjoy a wonderful story in the Cosmere, stay in that world, but not feel like you have to start another series when some fans just won't be ready for that.
Like the standalones.
I've got some thoughts I'm going to get out right now.
It looks like beef you have to get out here.
No beef. I think that Sunlit Man is probably a very enjoyable book on its own. I think that your dad and I probably had very different experiences reading Sunlit Man. I think we probably felt very differently about it we both felt good about it, but for different reasons. And I think that your point about these books are so good for rereading is a really good point, but I think that we have a problem, especially right now. I don't have a problem. We have a great thing right now where there's so many awesome fantasy books to read, and how many people actually really have time to reread Sanderson's 100,000 page... Okay, yeah, but we're the exception, guys. Come on.
I thought those were agreements, but those are saying that you want to reread or that you agree it's hard to reread. Hard.
If you need someone to help you with the reread, Michael Kramer and Kate Redding will get you through it. It'll work.
It's not that you're wanting to reread, you're obligated to reread. You have to, by no choice, by what he's revealed in these books. It's amazing.
And then that becomes something that, there are certain friends of mine that I would then give a pretty strict reading order to because I know they're never going to reread these books.
True.
And I know that, again, that comes back, I guess, to the point at the beginning of it all depends on who you're pitching it to.
I think we just need to talk about pitching it to friends. I had some genre focus, but I think when we're all trying to get people into Sanderson. Is that accurate? Yeah, we're the kind of the worst. You go on Reddit and they're like, "Can I have a romance?" It's like, "Have you read the Stormlight archive?"
Guys, if they're asking for romances, just recommend Yumi now, okay?
Yeah, Yumi or Warbreaker.
Warbreaker as well.
So I guess, so do you guys feel like if you have a friend, like a literary friend, a YA friend, a thriller friend, whatever, new to reading friend, you feel so strongly that you're going to give them a specific order? Because for me, if I have a friend trying to come into fantasy in particular, that's not necessarily a fantasy reader, the Cosmere reading order, that's already, if you told them you have to read 33 books in a specific order, and you're going to have to reread them if you want to know everything, do you think they would join you on that journey?
You hook them first with Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Yes.
They read that, they go, "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever read in my life," and now they're like, "Tell me exactly how I read the rest of it."
I think Tress is an amazing starting point. I have given Tress to so many people. So do you guys agree with that too then?
Yes. And this is where the majority of my list will come from, is trying to help people take their momentum through all the books. Are we ready to reveal individual lists here? This is the one I go.
We just need to post them somewhere afterwards.
Cool.
And I'll just post 10 different ones.
Yes.
And it's like, it'll be 10 different endings, and that will be my,
Well, let me give them a general idea of how this goes then.
Can't keep it in. Go,
Well,
go,
I know,
go.
I'm
Go,
so
go, go,
excited.
go.
But I
List it.
completely
60 seconds.
Well,
Right now.
I'm not going to read it and list every single book. But the general idea here is that you have to start with either a Tress or a Mistborn. It depends on where you're coming from. If you're wanting something more whimsical, you go Tress. If you're wanting something more intense, you go Mistborn. But this will help you with the rest of the books that are longer, deeper, and bigger reveals. You begin to build trust in Sanderson. The biggest thing for me, I have had literally family members who decided, I'm going to start with The Way of Kings, and they get halfway through and they never read another Sanderson book ever again. That is tragic. And I swear if they'd started on Mistborn, that's how you get there.
Yeah, Way of Kings, I think, is the one for, very specifically, if they're randomly a super big high fantasy fan. They've done A Song of Ice and Fire, they've done Wheel of Time, and randomly haven't done, you know, Sanderson, then you can give them Way of Kings. But otherwise, it's just, you can't start with Way of Kings.
100%.
I will say.
Who started with Way of Kings? Who was Way of Kings?
Whoa!
Okay,
And
wait.
you're here!
Wait, another
Genuine shock.
hands though. Were you already into high fantasy? Give me not nearly as
Not as many.
It looked like the same amount of hands to me.
That's why they're here, because they're like, I don't know if that's gonna work for my friends.
This sucked.
But you know, have you guys ever given Emperor's Soul? I give Emperor's Soul a lot as a friend.
Yes.
It's a short story, which
Really
works.
short.
I
It's a
agree
novella.
completely with that.
Novella.
Yes.
It's a novella, but for literary friends, I find that's the one that can capture them.
Do any of you guys think a break belongs in the Stormlight archive for the people through?
I think for normal people, yes, not for me.
Not for me. You gotta go
Normal
straight
people.
through those.
So
ones.
one of the things that helped me out was ping-ponging between Mistborn and Stormlight. Like I would read a
Really?
That would
Stormlight
drive
book,
me nuts.
And then, well,
So
it
how
would-
did you do? Like what is
so,
hitting you?
so I think I read the trilogy of Mistborn, and then it was the Era 2 stuff that I kind of went back
that's
and
fine.
forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, of course, I double checked with my friends to make sure I wasn't screwing anything up royally. But always got the go ahead. Like, hey, I'm thinking I'll go to this Wax and Wane book in between, a couple Words of Radiance and Oathbringer or something.
And actually, I 100% agree with you. And I think that the Stormlight Archive, I would read the first 3 books once you hit Oathbringer, take a break. Because the Oathbringer is, for me and the people that I know, that's when you love Way of Kings, you're exhausted out of Words of Radiance, but it was so good you have to keep going into Oathbringer, and then it slows down quite a bit. And that's when I tell them, you read Arcanum Unbounded and all the little short stories there, and you will absolutely reignite your love for this series, and you'll start realizing all the cool connections across the Cosmere. That's when the Cosmere really opens up, because you've started with Mistborn, gone to Stormlight Archive, and you have secret history teaching you this is what the Cosmere is for the very first time, and it just will blow your friends' minds.
I will say it's really daunting when you finish a audiobook. I'm big on audiobooks. I love audiobooks, and you finish one, and then you load up Oathbringer, and you're like 60 hours. But then you flip over to a Wax and Wane, and you're like, oh, 12 hours. Okay. And you're like, oh, okay, let's bust this one out first. Yeah.
I want to hear the rest of your list because I just saw something on there that made me violently angry.
No. Well, my.
Sean, tell us, what is it?
Yes.
Did you
What
see?
is it?
So I went with Oathbringer, and then I went to Arcanum Unbounded. Then I have 2, you can throw them wherever you want, which will be Warbreaker, Elantris, and Yumi the Nightmare Painter, Tress. Were those the ones that made you
Nope.
angry? Okay.
Okay, call it out.
Then the next
Tell them what it is.
Lost Metal before Rhythm of War? Guys, please, guys. Don't do that. Read Rhythm of War before Lost Metal.
And you didn't have a problem with ping-ponging between Stormlight and the second era of Mistborn? Am I the only one on this panel?
As long as you've read, I think ping-ponging isn't as bad because with what you were talking about, Era 1 is a stopping point. So at least if you read all of Era 1 back to back, and then you go take a break. And I think that stopping after Oathbringer actually makes a good amount of sense because there's a gap between Oathbringer and Rhythm of War, so that's a good time to take a break. But guys, come on, the end of Rhythm of War, you guys are gonna spoil that with Lost Metal?
It's all for me is the momentum, and that's why after Secret History and everything, you go into the second era of Mistborn and finish it completely, keep the momentum going. Then you go to Dawnshard, Rhythm of War, Sunlit Man, and you've got everything before Wind and Truth. You're ready to go.
Can I just have a confession for a moment here and say that I finished all the Mistborn and I'm a few hours away from finishing Rhythm War, so I don't know what I've screwed up, maybe?
You're fine.
Okay.
No, you're not.
Vote of
I
confidence.
think Matt is fine.
Amen.
You
Okay.
guys are insane. That's fair. That's fair.
You know, I didn't
We're all
think I
insane.
had a huge opinion, but some of the opinions expressed today, like maybe I do have more of an opinion.
Are you agreeing with me over here?
No.
Come on!
You have to agree that the Rhythm of War thing, right?
I do not.
Oh, God.
I'm very curious what the Rhythm of War thing is.
I am
just
too.
gotta
We're gonna have to
say.
talk afterwards.
Yeah,
Maybe
go
people are
chat.
gonna come up because this no
I
spoilers
listened to
here.
it on the entire plane ride
Yeah,
here
yeah.
to get to where I am, and
Yeah.
I've been walking around the conference with.
I
my
threw
earbuds.
Rhythm of War when I got to a certain part at the end of it. I threw it across my room.
And I'm not saying that's not valid. But
No, I'm just saying. I just,
Express your feelings.
I'm
Yeah,
not going to do
I'm
that
going
with
to.
my AirPods.
Well, I want to know what made Bookborn so passionate about this all of a sudden.
Well, it's just I feel like a lot of opinions are being expressed, like taking a lot of breaks between series that feel a little interesting. It's fine. Everyone does their own thing. I usually just like to read a series, but that's everyone. I actually the Oathbringer thing though I totally agree with because all of my friends who love Stormlight Archive, at the end of Oathbringer they feel tired.
Yes.
Like so I do think that is a great natural stopping point if you have a friend that's tired.
It's a
Like,
great break.
Yeah,
It's a
I
really
can
good
agree
break.
with
And they'll
that.
keep the momentum for that break. Jaden, did you have thoughts? I feel like we haven't heard with you.
I do have some thoughts. I think, okay, so in one sense, I am a simple man. And maybe I just can't handle it. That could be part of it. Swapping magic systems all over the place, really, really hard. Like, if I was to go and break up the Stormlight Archive with non-Stormlight Archive magic system books, at least dramatically different, I would have to reread significant portions of like to get back into that, to get back into the story, to get back into the tales, the emotional connection you have with the characters. I feel like you build so much of that over the course of this entire book, this journey, this epic fantasy, and then you're like, I'm just going to take a quick break and I'll come back in 3 months. I don't know. Maybe I read slower than everybody else, but it's one of the things where a reading order for a series is one thing, like a 1 through 4 and not mixing that up all over the place. And another thing is, I'm just going to read a secret project between series. But I just don't know if I could handle, I'd be so confused. I can't even remember the names of half the magic systems sometimes.
I'm going to disagree with you here too. I think even Brandon Sanderson himself agrees with mixing up the books. He has announced that in the future he's going to do follow-up Elantris books and follow-up Mistborn books, and they're going to release every other year. And so going with every other books is actually, if you're going to go by publication order, happens naturally.
Would you
Yeah, but I
say,
do think people don't usually do that if you haven't been a fan. Like usually when I get into another author, if I'm late, I don't usually go by publication order. I usually go in series order. So I feel like it's pretty natural. Like someone in a bookstore is generally not going to look up publication order.
True.
Just
I'm not
in
saying
general.
Sanderson's order is the right way to do it.
I mean, he does seem to have some authority. I don't know.
would you say that as books come out, and we know that there are more books coming,
there are.
spoilers, I guess.
I haven't finished Wind and Truth, okay?
Would you say that you expect your reading order, your desired reading order, maybe we can ask everyone else, will significantly change maybe 5-10 years from now with books that come out in the future? Would you slot them in, or would you say from here, now you can read kind of in publication order as they come out?
This is a trap question.
Well, this is also, they can't answer it with a yes or no. So can you reframe it in a yes or no question?
I was just going to go with a lot of shouting, but...
Okay. Yes or
No, from a yes perspective, would you change your reading order? Would you change your reading order when new books come out and you think of specific books?
Again, we can't.
I'll agree with you.
Well, actually, you're a corrupted truth watcher. You might be able to tell us the future. I do want time for some Q&A. So we have about a little under 15 minutes. I'm going to move the microphone up here. So if you want to ask a question, if you guys can line up behind the mic, right there.
I'm still really upset about that.
I love giving strong opinions over here. So
Here we
Is
thought
that-
this
is
would be
that mic
really
on?
chill.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Let's start us off.
So I wanted to provide a little bit of another perspective to think about. A lot of people recommend Tress as a good starting point, and I would say I disagree because Tress is not written in Brandon's voice. Tress is written in Hoyt's voice, which is a very similar to his Alcatraz tone. Some people really like the Alcatraz. A lot of people I know, especially ones that want to get into serious fantasy, don't like the frivolity of it.
I can see it.
This wasn't a question, more just I've been dying to voice this the whole time. And that's when it comes down to an individual, right? If you think they'll like the fun slings of Tress, go for it. But also know that if they like Tress a lot, they might not like the rest of the Cosmere because that is written in Brandon's voice, and it's a very different tone.
Yeah, and I think like you have to just know your friend, and I do think like you just force it on him though. Like,
you know what's best
like
for him.
Tress, it's just like you have to like if you know if you're in my life, like you don't have a choice at some point. Like you have to try at least 3 before I'll get you off the hook. So you can also do that, like, you know. But I agree. I totally agree with you. That's a
That's
great
fair. Just
point.
want to put that up there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I tend to think that Tress is a better starting point for people that aren't really into fantasy already. I don't know that, my friends that are really into fantasy, I think I would start them with a Mistborn or something. Because I know they're going to be able to handle that, they're going to be fine with it. But my aunt just read Tress. I wasn't going to recommend Mistborn to my aunt.
These words are accepted.
Thank you.
We're gonna have to speed through these because I really want to make sure we get to all these questions too.
We're probably not. I'm really sorry. We only have 10 minutes and it's strict, but we're
Sorry,
gonna try.
Austin.
Yeah.
Hi. I have a bit of a problem which involves the fact that I only have 1 copy of each book and I have a lot of friends. So, one of the things that I struggle with is I can't lend the same book to everyone at the same time. So I've had to come up with different starting spots for every single one of my friends. Do you guys ever run into this situation? And also, what books would you not recommend?
Just start by ranking your friends.
Who's old enough for MySpace? Go get a MySpace, your top A and see, this is who gets it.
I mean, I definitely wouldn't tell them to read Wind and Truth first. I think that's probably not a good starting point.
So one way you could look at it is which of your friends is most likely to become a fanatic about it, and then you gang up with the other friends.
Because they'll buy it, and then they
They'll buy
get
it,
2
yeah,
books.
Yeah. And then they'll buy it because they love it, and then there's more copies going out.
Also, if anyone's if you're in the US and not using the Libby app, you tell your friends to download Libby, which is a free library app.
As well as Hoopla.
Yeah.
Hoopla is the other.
And that's what we've done a lot as well. So just a plug for that, I guess.
I will say the books that they absolutely should not start with. First one is Elantris. It's a good book, but
That one
he's.
worked for me, 2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry. He's a very early writer in it, very good, but it doesn't hit as the other ones do because of that.
This
one's gonna
fantastic
be. You guys are gonna hate me for this, but Warbreaker is the other one. Do not have them start on Warbreaker.
I kind of agree, but
I've given people Warbreaker to start a lot.
But are they romantasy fans
No,
first?
I hate romance and I love Warbreaker.
I still like Warbreaker a lot. I'm just saying it's a slower book, a slower start.
So a lot of my female friends really love Warbreaker. So if you are a female fantasy person trying to get into Sanderson, I usually do Warbreaker first and have high success.
There are exceptions. I'll give it. There are exceptions.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a really small, short question for Bookborn, and then a real question.
Oh.
Did you really finish Wind and Truth in 3 days?
Well, I did get an arc on Monday, so I've had it since Monday, and I finished it at. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. to finish it on Friday, the day it came out. And I don't recommend that.
That is crazy.
I was crying a lot at 5 a.m. at stuff that was happening, and I think it's because I was asleep. You guys haven't cried at every Stormlight arc. I mean, give me a rest. Come on. You knew you were going to cry sometime in Wind and Truth.
Okay, so the actual question I have, I think we can all generally agree that Stormlight is Brandon's best work. I personally started with Way of Kings, but I went back and eventually started Mistborn, and I really struggled with it. So my question to you guys is, do you think it's very good to start, especially for a new reader, to have Mistborn be the first starting point compared to Way of Kings, even if they're more satiated with higher epic fantasy?
I actually think that is a good point because I have 2 friends who hate Mistborn because they read Stormlight first, and they're like, it's just nowhere near as good as Stormlight.
Right, it's nothing to do with you'll spoil something, it's just more so just the work is better.
They can't stand Mistborn, and I'm like, what is wrong with you?
I love this one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I was going to ask on opinions about reading Warbreaker in the top 3. So I know yours. You're wrong. Just saying.
It's okay.
But I just wanted to ask, me personally, I would say I put Warbreaker like right after me reading Mistborn, just because of how much it kind of expands on how magic just works as a whole in the Cosmere. And so I just want to know your opinions on that.
I would say get yourself a foothold in the Cosmere first. That's what I would tell all of my friends. I recognize that there are some people that might like Warbreaker first, but I think it's going to be more beneficial if you do have a bit of a handhold. We just got the 5 minutes, so we may not get to all the questions, but I'll give some more opinions.
The reason I said Warbreaker, I forgot to mention, just because it's a standalone. So I have some people, like, even though Mistborn is short, they hear trilogy and they immediately just like are overwhelmed. And there's so few standalones in the Cosmere in general, which we love, but it's harder. So I think that's why Warbreaker is another standalone. That's why I think sometimes I agree it's a good one.
Cool, thank you.
Hey, regardless of the order that you recommend to friends, I just want to put in a plug. You talked about bouncing around, needing to revisit stuff. The Coppermind Wiki is the single best resource for anybody because all those proper nouns, all the magic systems, it's all there, it's all very well organized, and even I've read Stormlight 4 times up to this point. I still have to go back, and there's still stuff I
huge
learned.
warning though.
Be very careful.
If you have not read everything Sanderson has ever published, you go on that Coppermind with extreme caution.
Use the time machine.
Yes,
Use the time
yes,
machine.
yes.
Yes, use the time machine.
But also, I would say if you've been listening
But
for the
thank you-
majority of
but
the
thank you
time,
for
you're
that.
about to be blown away with the spellings of some of these words.
So I think more than anything, I want to push back or maybe just voice support for, I feel like Secret History almost has to be read after Era 1. Everything is fresh in your mind. You can connect the dots much more easily when you try and come back to it. After having deviated at all from Mistborn Era 1, I feel like you just, a lot of the punch in it can be lost. Plus, I feel like there's a lot of fans who are very excited to see certain things that are unfolding in that have, I think that can be a very powerful driving force into getting them to continue on past that first trilogy. And so I think, I guess, more than anything, why would anyone say that you should wait until Bands of Mourning outside of like because they were published together? I feel like there's such a little payoff.
Yeah,
Does anyone feel like you should do it at Bands of Mourning, or are we all after Era 1 truthers?
I know why people think that, but
It's such a
They're
small
wrong.
payoff.
It's not worth
We're
it.
all okay with Era 1, right?
Yep.
I think, yeah, we're all in a
We found something.
Yes, we
Look at,
agree.
we all agreed on something.
Look at us.
I started reading Stormlight first because I don't know anyone who I have not made read it that has read it other than my brother who gave me book 1 and has not read anything else, only book 1. So I've read Stormlight and I'm finishing all of Mistborn right now. So then my question is, where do you think I should go from here?
So what has she read again?
No.
I would just get Elantris out of the way.
Or
Just
He's
do
with
it.
me!
Just do it. Just get it done.
I was going to say Lunches for the complete opposite reason. I love that book. I would say secret
we don't have much
projects.
time, but a quick vote. Who thinks Warbreaker? Give me a bridge for it. Who thinks Elantris? Who thinks we're wrong and it's something else?
Hey, we're pretty close.
If you want to go by committee, it looks like, did Elantris win?
I think it was Elantris.
Elantris won.
You're going to love it.
So I did a full Cosmere reread in the last 12 months.
Hey!
Right there with you.
I read them all as they came out the first time. So I got kind of different reading orders, and I feel strongly that you should read it in whatever order you will continue reading it in.
Completely agree.
Absolutely.
Like I love the Way of Kings books, and I could not put them down, and I was so glad to read all 4 straight through.
Yes.
But like many people have said, they need a little break, and that's fine. And the Mistborns hit so hard when there's a 300-year gap between
Yes.
Era 1 and Era 2. And what do we know about what happened 300 years ago? We're so bad at history.
Yep.
They are too. And when you know stuff that they don't, it's really fun.
I like that.
And so, yeah, that's my hot take.
Thank you.
So say you're trying to cut down on competition for future Dragonsteel Nexuses. What is the worst reading order? Guaranteed to kick someone out.
Should we take it out of like you read the series out of order? Because that seems too easy, right?
Oh.
That's right. That was.
All right, I'll stop making that joke.
What's the, you guys, What's the worst reading order?
I just would not start with Mistborn Era 2 first.
Oh, a lot of people do.
I know
love
they
it.
do, but if we have to give a hot take and choose something that's not out of order, like within itself, that's probably where I would start.
I think Secret History is the worst place to start.
Okay, come on.
Thank you.
Anyway, did you guys?
I'd say Elantris is the worst place. Sorry, guys.
The people, that was his first published book.
Yeah, and you can
Is
tell.
anyone here from the Atlantis days? Like you read? Oh my goodness.
You guys are the real ones. We love that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So I think with the Rhythm of War reveal, how many people do you think actually get it on the? Because it's one line. It is one line.
It's a really good line.
It's a good line, but we get it because we're expecting it.
It's a really good line.
Because I also threw my book, but how many people do you think actually get that reveal in that line?
I think that most people.
He's saying it doesn't matter. It's fine. He's not gonna say it's like, fine.
I think we're almost out of time. But thanks for the question.
We are out of time. Do you have something really fast?
Yeah, I'll just turn it into a statement real quick. One thing to keep in mind is expectations, like when we're doing reading orders. Just the knowledge of there being a reading order will change how people interpret something. Like I know someone who didn't read Dawnshard before Rhythm of War and then wasn't enjoying Rhythm of War because they were like, I missed Dawnshard, so everything I don't know is a problem. And it's like, but then they're just making that in their mind. And like, so for instance, the Rhythm of War thing, Matt is about to finish it, and now he has it in his head that he's like, oh no, there's this thing. So now he's gonna be stressed. He's gonna be stressed.
And he's gonna love it when it happens.
But if he doesn't figure it out, he's gonna be stressed. So
And he'll go online and look it up, and he's gonna love it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.